and welcome to Needing a Meeting. My name is Carol. I will be your host today, and I'm cranky. It's hot back here, and I'm cranky. We just got out of the unair-conditioned car, and I'm cranky. Who do we got? Hey, Ben. I don't know if you're still here in the chat or not, but... Oh, no, it's not just you, Ben. I'm cranky. I thought about, I didn't know if we'd have anybody that had worked the 12-step program in here today or not. If we did, I wanted to kind of go over the second step. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And I was kind of wanting to know what that process looked like. You know, when I got sober, it's like getting caught for a crime, you know, and you're running and you're not thinking about anything but just running your game. Hey, Crystal, just because it's hot. I'm cranky because it's hot. And what was I saying? Anyway, it's kind of like if you're running from because of a crime and you get caught, you know, and you're almost like relieved that you don't have to run anymore, that you don't have to hide. That's kind of what it was like for me in some ways. And I just thought, you know, who caught me here? You know, what caught me? And how did this happen? How did I end up here in this shelter and not in those streets where I could smell urine, you know? And, you know, you ask that question enough times and, you know, some things began to reveal themselves. And I'm cranky, and my AC was just fixed. Oh, I hope we can get our AC fixed in this room, because the jeebers. So yeah, I was hoping that we'd have some people in here who had worked the steps, but so you feel guilty. No, this was early in my sobriety. You know, I suppose there was a certain amount of guilt to being in an active addiction, because I was definitely isolating myself. I knew that I was not fit for polite company. You know what I mean? And yeah. So yeah, I guess in a way I did feel a little guilty. Maybe when I was out there drinking and using and not keeping a roof over my head and all that good stuff. So yeah. Anyway, did I put the link in the meeting thing? Well, are you guys? What would you guys like to talk about? Throw some things out there. Let's talk about them. Waiting for an emergency meeting to start. The image that comes to my wooden head, the phrase. Would be nice if my stupid emergency meeting would bloody start. Sigh. Yeah. Well, I'll read from the Daily Reflections book from AA. We are operating on, it's called a spiritual kindergarten. We are operating on a spiritual kindergarten in which people are enabled to get over drinking and find the grace to go on living to better effect. When I came to AA, I was run down by the bottle and wanted to lose the obsession to drink, but I didn't really know how to do that. I decided to stick around long enough to find out from the ones who went before me. All of a sudden, I was thinking about God. Interesting. I was told to get a higher power, and I had no idea what one looked like. I found out there are many higher powers. I was told to find God as I understand him, that there was no doctrine in the Godhead in AA. Doctrine of the Godhead in AA. I found what worked for me, and then asked that power to restore me to sanity. The obsession to drink was removed one day at a time. My life went on, and I learned how to live sober. Yeah, I've been sober more years than I was in active addiction. And so yeah, that seems like somebody else that was in that at this point. But yeah. Well, you guys, I was hoping it would be a meeting, but if it's not going to be a meeting, let's see how many it says we have watching here. 6 people watching.
Are you turning on? You are turning on. You're just being kind of lazy about it. But okay. And I'm talking to myself in front of the camera. That's great. The day is. That's been one of those days. It was something you said that popped something in for me, and it really isn't a second stage, but it was something I believe it was Shannon Smith. Yes, it was Shannon Smith that said this. That one of the things I was whining and moaning about how, oh, my diet sucks. I eat the same thing every day. Blah blah blah. And then it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of people out there who don't have enough to eat. So I should. It's like, this is great because now I'm hungry, I'm bored, and now I feel ungrateful on top of everything else. It's like, this is a great self-destructive. Yeah, but um, yeah, I guess that and I because I know that um that was something that it's a little recovery related too. I mean, that's certainly not trauma. I mean, I'm not saying that's trauma, but I know that's one of the reasons why we don't compare trauma. It's because, oh well, what's my trauma? Whoop de doo. Somebody else had it worse. So then all you're doing is you're beating up on yourself.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah. Yeah.
But um, but for the second, you know, did you find that you had to do that? Your second stage of AA? Did you find that you had to work the steps?
Well, I feel like even when I was not going to AA meetings and I opted for going to church, the steps were always there,
Okay.
and to some degree or another, I was working them, you know,
Hmm.
you take inventory,
Um,
something comes up and you take inventory, and when you're wrong, you're promptly admitting it, and you're doing whatever you got to do to make amends,
mhm.
you know. And a lot of those steps are just steps through the amends process,
Mm.
And I started calling people back home that, I feel like my drinking
Okay.
definitely affected, you
Mm.
know, and anybody that I owed money to, I contacted them and made sure that I was paying them something until it was paid off, things like that. So
Mm.
I didn't abandon the steps necessarily. I just didn't work them with a sponsor, and I didn't work them the way a sponsor would have said to work them.
Mm. Okay, that's
You
interesting
know,
though. But okay, I figured you for a 12-stepper. I mean, not that that's bad or anything. I just thought you went through that process. I didn't realize that
I,
you
I,
really.
I mean, I really actually did.
You did, but just not formally, not in AA.
Yeah, not
Which
in
is
a structured way. Like you do when you go to meetings and you have a
mm,
sponsor and you do what the sponsor says. You know what, Shannon? That is a great question.
it's a good question.
You know, I would not say that I did
Mm,
because, in that process of, being addicted, I lost a child and it was of my own choosing. And
mm,
so, there's nowhere to look but myself when it comes to that loss,
mm,
and so no, I would not say that I did make amends to myself. If anything, I just kept beating myself up because, who would put their child through having to ask why didn't my mom want me, you know?
well,
And that was the thing that haunted me once I sobered up, is that he would have to lay his head on his pillow and ask that question some nights, and and I had no way of knowing if the situation with the parents who adopted him was a happy one.
mm,
You know, people present one way, but they're different behind closed doors.
sure.
And
Uh,
and then Luke got to his teenage years, and I was so afraid of somebody offering him something. Because he had addiction coming from all four sides of his ancestry, of his, you know, DNA. And,
mm,
so I kind of wrote to the parents in a panic. I said, you've got to explain to him that if he, that there is this in his family and that he needs to know that if he does pick up a drink or some substance, that there is a good chance that addiction will not be far behind, you know? And I never really heard back from them on that, and that concerned me,
mm,
you know. And I learned later that they were pretty heavy drinkers. They were the kind that waited till they got home, you know, and it's that time of day, and that's what they do.
mm,
And so they were nice people, even probably somewhat nice as drinkers, but drinkers nonetheless. And he doesn't remember too many times that they weren't actively, you know,
mm.
engaging in that. And so I guess they felt like that would have been hypocritical on their part, maybe. I don't know.
Mm.
But I was so scared about that part of his, and I was desperate to get the word to him some kind of way. And they were the only way that I had, the only
Yeah,
means that I had.
yeah, and well, yeah, this is one thing that I mean, I realize that hindsight's always 2020, all
Hmm.
that. But the thing is, you did so for the best reasons that you could have had because you were looking at your life
Yeah.
and you realized that you fell short and you wanted a good life for this child. So it's not like that doesn't make you an evil person. That makes you, somebody who cares for their child and who wanted to make sure he had the best shot possible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Because
you
I
know,
really did not feel like I could give
yeah,
him that at
yeah,
all. My life felt very precarious. And
yeah.
that's 2 years before I got sober,
Mm,
you know. And I just had this thing going in my mind that was telling me that I wasn't going to live to see 30. So,
yeah,
you know, why be careful?
yeah. I I get that.
You know, I would disagree a little bit, Shannon, because I was afraid of being a failure as a parent, big time, you know, and I just didn't think I had the goods. I quit drinking and using when I was pregnant with him,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, and it just turned out that, a few months after he was born, that I just was miserable and kind of asking myself, well, why am I sober? I wasn't working any kind of 12-step program. I didn't go to any AA meetings, none of that. I just thought that, I should be able to quit drinking. And it didn't quite work that way.
Hmm.
So I did need a power greater than myself. And I feel like a lot of that came to me through AA.
Hmm.
I just felt like I needed it a little bit better defined than what AA defined it. And so
Okay.
that's why I turned to church.
Hmm.
You know, I realize now that,
Okay.
you know, I'm okay with the mystery, but it's been a long, painful process getting to that point. And
Yeah.
at the time, I really just needed answers, and these people had answers. And
Hmm.
so, hey,
Well,
Andrea and Nancy.
but after you went to the church, did you ever go to an AA meeting?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. 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 And
I
that's
did.
okay.
I tried to go back to AA, and I got a girl that I asked to sponsor me, and because she said she was a Christian in the meeting, and I was really struggling with that question: am I an alcoholic, and do I have to say that? Especially if I'm this new creature that the Bible says I am. How does that work? And
Hmm.
I thought maybe a Christian might be able to help me navigate that. And she said, well, if you don't think you're an alcoholic, then you don't need to be here. She wasn't listening to me at all.
Hmm.
When she said that, that told me she was not listening to me at all.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And
'Cause
maybe didn't have the reference for herself even. I don't know.
yeah. I'm not.
But that did wound me. It's like, because I nearly died out there, you know, and for you just to tell me that I don't belong there, that
Yeah.
hurt. That hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially when because you're obviously struggling with that question, which is that's actually a pretty deep spiritual question, and it's something obviously that you weren't getting an answer to in spiritual circles. So it seems like she should have at least had, well, yes, yeah, but or something.
Or
Yeah,
something.
I get that, but I still have to deal with this. You know, uh, Something. But yeah, to just say you don't belong there. I mean,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
is? And this is going to be a really odd question, but this occurred to me. I don't really exactly know what a sponsor even is in AA.
Basically, it's somebody that you make yourself accountable to.
Okay. Okay.
Somebody that helps walk you through the steps.
Mm.
However they did them, that's how they're going to walk you through it.
Oh, interesting.
And my sponsors before must not have been working the steps because they never could answer that for me.
That's kind of interesting because that's
No,
um yeah, because I never had. Cause I mean, I went to AA groups, but I would hear that term a lot, and I kept thinking, well, it's somebody who's vouching for somebody or something, or
hmm
I never really had a really good lock on it. But
yeah,
that is so interesting
yeah,
that we're kind of in the same place, really. And the thing was, of course, I wasn't an alcoholic, but I was going to AA, didn't even know that I needed a sponsor. You were going to an AA as a recovering alcoholic, and you didn't have, for all intents and purposes, didn't have a sponsor who didn't help me.
Yeah,
If they're not going to help you, what's the purpose?
that's right. And that's where I would arrive to,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
when I would when it just seemed like they were just as lost as I was, I'm like, well, my goodness, how's this going to help me?
Yeah.
How am I going to find my way in this circumstances? This set of circumstances. But yeah, I kept running up against the judgy side of AA, and I know that not all groups are like that.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the groups that I was running up against were,
Hmm.
you
That's
know,
interesting.
they didn't like my Christianity and my little
Really?
church girl stuff, but
Wow.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. Well, no, actually, I don't get it. But I mean, I most certainly, believe that this is the case. But I'm just blown away that that group being how they are.
yeah,
That they would get judgmental about that of all things. I mean, I thought for sure they'd be judgmental on you because you didn't do something quite right. I mean,
yeah.
they were fairly judgmental against me, but I was like, kind of, well, I'm just here because I promised somebody I would do 90 meetings in 90 days, which I didn't make anywhere close to it, but I did try. You
Okay,
know, I tried as best I could. I was, considering the town I was in, um, you know, it's like, well, yeah, all I can do is a good faith effort, but
how
um,
how long would you say you went?
oh my gosh, um, yeah, that's actually an odd question. I think I did the AA thing for about a week and a half, but then I found another group that was led through my a therapist, and it kind of filled the
Okay,
same. It kind of actually it didn't. It didn't. Now I think about it, it didn't fill the same role at all. But I told myself it did because it was a meeting and it had other people that had problems in it. You know, I could never find a codependence anonymous.
okay,
I never found. I never went to a single. That's a lie. I never went to a single one where I lived
okay.
when I was in the recovery center. I've actually attended one, but it was it was a formal codependence anonymous meeting. But I thought at the time it's like this is no different than which is like why am I here? Um, but
I wonder what the steps look like in Codependence Anonymous.
the from what I recall, now I could be wrong on this. From what I recall, I remember them being exactly the same thing. It's just they replaced addiction with behavior. Um,
Okay,
because they read the what do you call it, the Serenity Prayer.
okay,
Uh, they didn't run it like an AA. I mean, you didn't all stand up and say, I'm a codependent. We didn't do that, but we
okay.
did go around and we would check in by saying, "Today I feel," and you had to label your core feelings, which I thought AA did that. But
Mm,
today I'm feeling.
that would have been useful, actually.
That was one thing I actually did find useful out of it.
Yeah,
Was just simply because you're getting attuned to listening to yourself because you're
yeah,
so used to ignoring it. And the thing is that you got used to the fact that you could say, "I'm feeling lonely, scared," and you could label these negative emotions, and you didn't have to apologize for them. You just say, "This is the way I'm feeling," and just move on to the next person and let them, go through theirs. And I found that to actually be a little empowering because, I was always used to, yeah, I'm feeling a little scared to be here, or a little worried, whatever term you want to use. Of course, core feelings are different, and I don't even remember my core feelings anymore. It's been so long, But it's the rationale that all feelings boil down to trepidation, all the stuff. It just boils down to the core feeling of fear. All these other feelings boil down to the core feeling of angry, or
Okay.
anger, and all these others, happiness. So I think there was 12 core feelings. If it was that many, I don't recall. Um, but just simply going through that, I found to be a little valuable. But the rest was like all, at the time, it was like, well, I mean, I guess it's a reminder that I'm imperfect, that I have this flaw I need to work on. But that was about it.
Okay.
Um, I need to keep my eyes out. I need to be aware of when I'm doing it. And that was about the good that the meeting I got out of all the meetings, including the ones with the therapist. They were really good meetings and
Yeah.
everything else, but at that point, I still didn't get it.
Okay.
I never really arrived until long after. It's like, okay, now I got what the function of those was. But
Okay.
when you're in it, I didn't have a sponsor to step me through saying this is why we do. I wasn't really even exactly sure why we were even doing it. Really, like it was never explained to me why you go to a meeting. You
Huh.
could,
You
you
know
could,
what? It wasn't actually explained to me either. I don't think.
yeah,
I just knew that I needed to keep going
mm,
because it's either that or or it's either that or go out and drink, and I would choose to go to a meeting instead of
mhm,
that. Sometimes after a meeting, I would still want to go out and drink
mhm. Well, and it's obvious
quite a bit,
it's obvious that you found a lot of value in that because hence the name of this channel you started.
right?
Um, so it's. But yeah, at least in my case, I didn't understand what the purpose was. I never got
Yeah,
spun codependent
you
on
know,
this.
those things could be spelled out a little bit better,
Yeah,
especially to the newcomers.
yeah. I just and it may have been one of those things where at the group or at the recovery center I was at, I have no doubt they one person probably thought, well, this person explained it to me, and the other person probably thought, this person explained. It was probably like ships passing in the night. Everybody thought they explained it to me, and nobody did. It could have easily been something like that. I mean, or maybe it was explained to me, but I was so busy because when I was in that recovery center, we were, yeah, it was worse than college. I mean, as far as studying and all the stuff we had to keep notes on and everything else. It
Okay.
it actually did count for college credit. Not that I
Really?
used it. It actually did give us some continuing, and I can't remember what it counted as. Probably humanities,
Okay.
but
Huh.
yeah, it did actually count for college credit. Not that I used it. So,
Interesting.
but yeah, it it. I mean, it was valuable to me, but yeah, I never got the meeting thing as far as codependence. I got the meeting with as far as meeting in a core group with other people with your issues, with a therapist and talking to her. I got that.
Yeah.
I got groups with people being angry. I got all these different groups. I got that. I just never quite understood what um, what codependence and anonymous was actually supposed to do. You
Huh. I wonder if they could do a better job of explaining how codependency could be a, a sort, a kind of addictive behavior.
They may have, and I may have just forgotten it.
Okay.
Um, because like I was pretty overworked at that point, so a lot of times
Mhm.
in meetings like that, especially once the end of the day, I'm starting to zone out, and I just want to go to bed type of thing. Uh, what
I
did Ben
always
say?
want
You
to
got credit?
know what you got
Oh,
credit for in what area of study.
we could have used it for. I didn't
Okay.
because I'd already spent my time in college, and I thought I was already done with college at that point, like a dog returns to its vomit. I keep returning to college. Uh, but no, I've never used them. But apparently you can. There was like some humanities or something like that. They gave you documentation that you could get some college credit for it. I don't know what.
Hmm.
But yeah, probably something in humanities or maybe psychology
Or
or
sociology, or yeah,
yeah, probably some sort of field like that.
yeah. It
Yeah,
is. Shannon says it is addictive behavior. You partly get addicted to the drama. I can see that.
mm,
I can
yeah.
see that. Yeah, I would say that my first marriage had a lot of that. That you know, I was in it for 5 years, so there was something there in the drama for me.
What do you think was the? I mean, no. I mean, I know what some of the issues that you've talked about having. What do you think was the primary issue that you were using alcohol to treat? If you had to guess.
Social awkwardness.
Okay.
Yeah. I just really it was almost like a magic pill.
Hmm.
Like, drinking in a situation that normally I would have been super awkward in. Yeah. Hey, Christy.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Oh, wow. You can really see my lighting system in that picture.
Oh, so you're okay. I was wondering if you were someplace else, but apparently,
No,
you,
I got some cool stuff for my studio. So,
oh, cool.
yeah.
So this is part of the reinvention of Christie that we're witnessing. And
Yes. Well, and gosh, I maybe I should take this down if that's.
well, can you? I mean, is it something that you could take the glass off of? Or I mean, I guess it would just fall out if that was.
Yeah, it's okay. I can just take it down and maybe scoot over. And you guys, guess what? I got a chair. I am no longer sitting on my step stool. I got a real chair.
That's really.
Like an
So,
office chair, or what kind of chair
it's
is it?
a it's just a clear little plastic chair. It's really cool. I'll post a picture of it. But my aunt and uncle found it for me at a yard sale for $1. And I was like, yeah, and they're like, well, I don't know if this would work, but maybe you can put it in your studio. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
Good for you.
So, yeah, yeah. So anyway, I just thought I would pop on and I see what you guys were talking about, see what was
Well,
going on.
I was kind of hoping that I would have some 12-steppers in that could talk about their process of coming to a higher power.
Oh,
And you could speak to that because you've done some examining of your spiritual life, and
hmm
I'd love to get into that. I wanted to address what Wally said about avoiding drama. I'm totally that way now. I
yeah,
run on it like it's there to kill me.
yeah, yes, yes.
But
We
the
do
time
get to that
it
point.
was not that way.
Can you guys see me and hear me? Okay, am I good?
Yeah,
Excellent.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. Good, good. My phone's been acting up. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not a 12-stepper, but I can definitely, tell you how I sorted stuff out for myself and kind of came to the um, I am not a music talent. I just can put words on a page and tell people what to do. So, none of that was me.
I mean, that's right. That is songwriting. You know,
Yep, yep, yep. That was it. Just write it and put it out there and see where it goes. It was fun, but um, So yeah, for me, coming to I had to untangle a lot though when I came to my higher power, because it was different than how I grew up. And so I had to not only untangle that, um, but and how this new path I'm on was going to look, but I had to untangle where I fit into this path, because in the old paradigm I was in, um, women didn't have a lot of power, and they weren't allowed to do a lot of things. And the spiritual path that I found myself on was completely opposite. So instead of being patriarchal, which is the men are in charge and make the rules, it was very feminine driven, and a lot of work with goddesses and things like that. And I had to sort out for myself what that looks like, because I didn't want to be a feminist that was like, I hate men and you don't need men, because I love men and you need men and I want men in my life. So I also had to balance that, because there was also a little bit of that too, of like, men suck. Well, no, men don't suck. But so I had to figure out for myself, and there was a lot to untangle. There was a whole lot that I had to untangle. And it was a lot of the best advice I ever got was from my friend Kira. And she said, the best thing that you can do is prove it to yourself. Like, if you come up with a question and you want to know the answer to it, do your own research and come up with your own answer. What is true? And how does it fit in? And that was the best advice I got, because it wasn't like it was before, where someone was preaching at me and telling me how it needed to look and what it needed to be and how I was supposed to be and act and behave, and good girls do this and good wives do this. And that's really why I don't like that good and bad. It's very dualistic to me. I don't like that, because I heard it so much. I'm like, well, what makes it good? What makes it bad? And that's where healthy versus unhealthy was much more helpful to me, because when you go into it in a dualistic way, and all duality is just, there's only two answers. It's either good or it's bad. There's no in between. So if somebody's dualistic, it's black and white. And a lot of what I was studying at the time, which was Native American spirituality teachings and different things, there's at least 3 or 4 different sides to it. So there's not only 2 sides. So I had to really look at, is this dualistic in how I'm looking at it? I had to quit looking at things as good and bad and start seeing them as healthy and unhealthy. That, when I started doing that, really helped me in my life in a lot of ways, not just meeting my higher power, but with choices that I made. Eating, is this healthy? Is this unhealthy? Going to drinking, is this healthy for you? Is this unhealthy for you? So that part of it changed. And so it was quite an untangling for me. I mean, it really was. It was a big untangling, but that's how I got there. I just, I had to kind of, look at, how does this work for me and with who I am as a person, That's kind of what mine looked like. Yeah.
I did a lot of detangling too, untangling when I came out of the cult. So that was a painful process. I felt like my very being was being unraveled.
Yeah, well, it is, if you think about it, it really is. Anytime that you're changing your thoughts, and especially your beliefs, and when you're changing something as core as your spiritual beliefs, because we all have them. It doesn't matter if you believe, even if you believe that nothing's up there, that is still a belief. That is still a belief system that you have. So it doesn't matter if you're Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or pagan or atheist. when you start revisiting that from a place of maybe you were traumatized by how that looked for you, or coming out of a cult, whatever your reason is to start rethinking it, it really does undo the core of who you believe you are. Because for me, in my instance, I was they called us cradle Baptists. I was born on a Thursday in church on Sunday, and I didn't leave for a really long time. And so it was everything about me that was coming into question. It was, how do I see my role as a mom? How do I see my role as a wife? How do I see my role as a woman? How do I see my role as a friend? How do I see my role with God? I went from, believing in God and Jesus one way to not believing in God and Jesus in that way. And how did that look for me? And how, and then how do you explain that to people? Like, once you get to that point, then how do you answer those questions? Because then you kind of get do you believe in Jesus? I do believe in Jesus, but I don't believe in Jesus the same way that you do. And then you get people who try to save your soul. And that's, if you're a Christian and that's you and your belief, I respect it completely. I totally do. There is nothing wrong with your belief in that. It's just not what I believe. And so then you have to learn how to manage that conversation. Because, now all of a sudden, instead of, you being the person who opens the door to a Mormon or Jehovah's Witness, right? Like, we all have those jokes about that. You are the Mormon or the Jehovah's Witness, even if you're really not. People are talking to you in that way. And so then you have to figure out, how do I respond to you? How much do I tell you? What do I say? So it really is a huge untangling of yourself. And if you're going through it while you're going through addiction recovery, then it's a whole lot. But, it might not be a bad time to do that either, because if you're untangling your addiction and you're getting to the bottom of all of it, then it might be the perfect time for you to go, do I believe this? If I'm questioning everything else that I believe in, what's worked for me in my life, what the hey? It's like kids. Once you got a couple kids, a couple more is not a big deal, right? When you've got one and then all of a sudden you've got three, that's kind of a big deal. But you got three and all of a sudden you got six, you're like, not being flippant about children.
No, you're not. I totally get it, because not only do you end up having six, but then those six add on all their friends and everything else. And before you know it, you don't have 6 kids in your house. You have 20 kids in your house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Did you have to fall back on a spiritual belief to get you out of the problem that you were having? Your character flaw, your thing, your version of codependency, your version of alcoholism. Did you find that you had to ask your spiritual power to get help with that, to overcome it?
Did I have to fall back on a spiritual belief to overcome my issues?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking? Okay. I did. Yeah, because I think it's very well, first of all, what I want to do is address what Black Cat said, never talk religion or politics. Sometimes you have to. And in those instances where you have to, that's when you have to have those answers, because sometimes you can't get away from it. Because what if it's your family or your friends or someone that you respect that you feel you owe an answer to? So that's kind of where that came from for me. I don't think things are always just as easy as no. And so to you, Ben, yeah, I did, because I think this is for me. It makes me so much more self-aware when I realize that there is something bigger than myself. It helps me to understand the struggles that I have, because when I see myself as a little part of a much bigger picture, it becomes a lot easier for me to forgive, to see myself in that way. And I think that's probably why having a higher power is such a big part of recovery. It's because if we only depend on ourselves, we're not going to get far, right? We just don't have that. It's why when you stand at the ocean, for me, when I stand at the ocean, in my favorite place, which is the Pacific Northwest, Washington State, and I see those trees that are 300 feet tall, and I'm at the ocean, and my feet are in the water, and I'm looking around, realizing that I am a small person, other just being the Hobbit, that I'm a small person. It does help me because it makes me realize that there is a plan for me. There is a reason that I'm here. There is a plan for me. There is something I am supposed to do. And I think that's when we deprive ourselves of that, I think we're depriving ourselves of really exploring. I think faith is such an important thing. And again, irrespective of what your faith looks like I don't care what you believe. That's your choice and that's your personal decision. But I think when you take faith out of anything, you're kind of taking hope out of it a little bit too. There's so much in life that we take on faith. We take on faith that we get up every morning and that the sun is going to rise.
Yeah.
That's faith. We take faith that, even if you have a mantra, everything is working out for my greatest and highest good. That's faith. And I don't know how you take that. I don't know how you take that out of your life. You know what I mean? Because if it's just you, then what is everything else for? If your whole existence is just you, that's a pretty. I wouldn't want that. You know what I mean? And I find comfort in knowing. Yeah, and I find comfort in knowing that whatever's up there, whatever that looks like to you, that it's got a plan. So even though I'm not. I would not classify myself as a Christian. I do still, there's a Bible verse that says, even before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. And I think that's in Isaiah or somewhere like that. But it's, it's true. It's a comforting feeling to know that something that powerful knew your life as you came on to the scene, and whether you believe in reincarnation or not, or whatever, however you getting here looks like to you, just the fact that there's something bigger out there that sees more than we can ever see, I think
I don't have anything defined anymore. I used to,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I know there's something at work.
Yeah.
The fact that our bodies operate the way that they do, there's nothing random about it. There's nothing random about that. So I know that there's something. There's some kind of something that is in this grand design.
Yeah.
Well, this I just found this really interesting because it just occurred to me. We'd gone through this in a book study that we were doing on the Discord server for the AA Big Book, and part of that was spiritual, the spiritual belief. And there was somebody in there who's an atheist, and they were going back and forth like, "Is this required?" And that was the topic du jour. And most of it I was pretty quiet on, but it just occurred to me that I don't recall. I'm at the time, I definitely believed in spiritual things. I still do. I just don't know what that looks like.
Right.
Right.
I guess you could say I'm searching.
I've always been on a search, but I have reached a place where I'm okay with the mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fact
but
that it's not defined and I don't need it defined for me anymore. I did. There
Mm-hmm.
was a time when I
Mm-hmm.
really did that. And
I
that's
mean,
Right.
and you know, the religious group that I decided to affiliate with kind of filled that
Mm-hmm.
filled that little bag, so to speak, for me.
Right.
you know,
Right.
You know,
Right.
well, it just occurred to me that I don't recall ever. Uh, Now, it's not to say I didn't do it and I just forgot because I'm old. I forget stuff. Um, I'm old, ADHD. Um, but it just occurred to me I don't recall ever actively doing that step of finding a higher power, praying to that higher
Mm-hmm.
power to get rid
Mm-hmm.
of this
Mm-hmm.
character flaw. Even though
Mm-hmm.
at the time I know I definitely believed and
Mm-hmm.
everything else, but it's like, you know what? I don't think I ever did. I think I was always, how do I do this type of thing? What does this look
Mm-hmm.
like? How does this? And it just occurred
Mm-hmm.
to me, wow, I don't think I ever did the steps. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
although, granted, I'm certainly not a 12 stepper, but
Right.
I didn't even give it lip service really, or maybe,
Well,
I don't know.
and I think that most of the experiences that I've found that people have shared with me personally or whatever, it's usually a big thing that causes you to really look at your faith, your spirituality and what that higher power looks like. I went from, being and I just use the word Christian because it's just a very well known term. People know what that entails. Um, to believing in one thing to now I believe in several things. I don't know that it's just one thing up there. I believe that it's several things up there. And so even that was a hard thing to define. I went from believing that you died and you either went to heaven or you went to hell, and you went to heaven or hell based on if you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And if you didn't, it didn't matter how good you weren't getting into heaven. Well, then I completely changed all that around, and I don't even believe in those anymore. I mean, I believe in reincarnation, and I believe that there is a place that really horrendous people go to. But do I necessarily believe in heaven? No, I don't. I don't. And so, and that was very hard to go from being taught, if you don't say these words, if you don't accept this belief, you are going to hell. It doesn't matter how nice you are. It doesn't matter how generous you are, how anything else, you will not get there. And that's what we were taught. And again, if that's what you believe, that's amazing and that's wonderful, and I am not in any way discounting your faith or what you believe. I'm certainly not saying that you are wrong. I'm just saying that for me, that became a very difficult thing. I had a very difficult way of handling that, because I know a lot of amazing people who have never set foot in a church, who staying with that belief just really means that they're not ever going to be there. And I didn't know that I was okay with that. And so again, this is just me and my questions. I'm not right. I don't have all of the answers. This is just how I got to my higher power, and I respect the beliefs of everybody. I'm not here to debate or tell you that you're wrong or shove my beliefs down your throat in any way, just to be very clear about that.
I wanted to say, Wally, I would label myself as an atheist, an unwilling one, but an atheist nonetheless. I find that there is that a lot of the people that I have encountered that are atheists, I find them very spiritual. They care about, the human in front of them, because, for all they know, that's all there is. And, that's not so far off from the spiritual path. It's really not.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
Yeah.
anyway. I've never found it to be off
Right.
the spiritual path.
Well, and I think too, the important thing is, one of the things is I think we can learn a lot about each other when we try not to convert the other people, but we just say, how do you believe? Like, why do you believe that? And not in any way other than just willing to learn. And one of the most interesting conversations I ever had was with a preacher in the Mormon church. And I said, listen, you're not going to change me. I'm not going to change you. I want to understand why you believe what you believe. And I asked him all of the questions I could think of. Still didn't quite understand it coming away from it, but I had a better grip on it. I can tell you what they believe. But I think when we can have those conversations and we don't have to be afraid about being converted, we don't have to be afraid about being judged, then I think we can learn a lot about each other. And I think that's what's missing in life. And especially these kinds of conversations is, you don't have to be defensive about it. Just
there's
explain.
Yeah, I think that's why we shy away from these conversations, and we shouldn't.
Right. Well, and that's even politics. I mean, gosh, could you think of any more volatile of a year to talk politics than right now? But how are you going to understand the other side if you don't ask those questions? Now, that's not to say there's not, really fanatical beliefs on both sides. And am I going to sit down with the most fanatical person and try to have a rational conversation? Probably not. But if I could sit down with an intelligent person who believed different than I did and we could have a real conversation, sign me up for that, man. Like, come on my channel. We'll chat about it. I don't care. I'm not afraid of it. But it's finding somebody who's going to be respectful and rational and not do that. And I think there's probably more people that are not that way than what we think, but at least that's my hope.
Ones that are fanatical or louder.
They are. They really are.
Afraid to talk about it, which is a shame.
Yeah.
We should be able to sit down and have a conversation.
I think so. And I think it comes down to respect. And if you can respect the person that's across the table from you, I think you should be able to talk about anything. Really. I mean, I really do. Maybe that's just my Aquarius save humanity kind of side coming out. But
there's really no reason why anyone has to be defensive. If you think what you think, you think what you think. If you believe what you believe what you believe. What's the problem?
Right. Exactly. And I think when we get into these bigger topics, there's so much that's up for interpretation that it can be, overwhelming. And I think too, it makes you think a lot. Like whether it's religion or politics, that's a pretty core fundamental belief. Like I have a lot of beliefs that, especially politically, and I mean, I'm not taking us into the weeds and just using it as an example. You guys know my spiritual beliefs, but that might surprise people, really where I'm at on things. And, but, I'd be willing to sit down and talk about it too. I think that's just it. I think it comes down to respect. And I think we've lost a lot of that, just respect of the other person, the respect that they have the right to say what they want to say, think what they want to think, be how they want to be. And I think there's a lot of us, being expected to maybe take on things that, I mean, it's just, I think respect has maybe exited stage right.
Yeah.
A little bit in a lot of things.
I don't believe it should be a lost art as people respect each other.
Yeah.
I can respect what you believe and fight for your right to believe what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
Without necessarily having to adhere to it.
Right. And I do. I mean, and I know this gets tricky, and I'm not trying to trigger anybody, and I hope I'm not. But I think there's so much to learn from so many people if you just sit down and have a conversation. You know, I mean, that's how we learn how to get along. And that's how we learn to get along. That's how we become accepting. I mean, the United States as a country was founded on a lot of different belief systems, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think having conversations is an art, and I think there is a lot of putting yourself aside and listening, not listening to respond, but listening to understand. I think asking questions, I think a lot of people I think we've lost that, you know, that and how to write cursive and drive a stick shift. I think we need to bring it all back.
I agree with you, Christy. Stick shifts and cursive writing. There we go. I'm proud of my son because he does want to learn how to drive a stick shift.
Well, my dad, he forced me to learn how to drive a stick shift, and I'm like, why do I need to know this? And he goes, because you might need to leave a situation, and that might be the only way out. And I was like, true enough. So all of my girls learned how to drive a stick shift for that same reason. Look, if you're stuck and you got to steal a car and the only thing there is a stick shift, I don't want you stuck. I want you to be able to get out of there. Drive like your mother.
Oh, do you drive like I do, Christy? Pedal to the metal?
You know, I used to, and then I got over $1,000 ticket for going. Well, I was doing 120 down the interstate, but I got clocked at 105, and then I was like, you know what, I need to slow down. Like, you know, you should live life in the fast lane, but not when it could get your car impounded and you could hurt someone. And I got a lovely police escort through the rest of Nebraska and across the state of Wyoming. And it would have been like felony charges if it would have been a high speed chase across state lines if I would have not pulled over. So yeah, I mean, it was it's not my most shining moment. But yeah, I've slowed down. That cost me a lot of money. That was a very expensive lesson.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Well, not to change topic on everybody, but I've made it back to Miss Susie Sunshine.
Yay!
I've made it back to Miss Susie Sunshine.
Good.
It took a lot of work. It took me facing that, damn it, I'm an emotional spender. And if I have money, I'm going to spend it on somebody else. And that gets me into trouble every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually talked to one of my creditors today and had them hold off. And then I was hoping somebody would contact me from a credit counseling company. And a 501c3 reached out to me today and started. I signed all the paperwork, and my first payment comes out on the 28th, which is 2 days after I get paid.
Oh,
but
nice.
I still have money left I can spend.
Good.
I pay the bills with.
Good.
So I'm feeling really good. I mean, it was a little difficult because really my guys are gone at work and I'm here with all the children and the grandchild and everything. And I'm talking to this gentleman and baby's pitching a fit. They're nowhere to be found. And I'm just like, okay, keep going. You've got this. Come on, you've got this. And I made it all the way to the end, signed the paperwork.
Good.
Set up the payment arrangement. And so I feel really good about that, even though I look like Dookie, but you know, hey, I don't care. I'm not here to impress anybody. At least not with my looks. You know, take me as I am, people. Take me as I am. But I made it through the weekend, and I apologize for dropping out of sight every now and then. But there were times Dustin started talking to me, and we were discussing my situation and what we were going to do about it and how to deal with it. And one of the things that I have agreed to, and I'm here to tell you, this is one of the hardest things I had to agree to because I've never had one of these, ever. I would just go to my dad and say, Dad, I need money, and my dad would give me money. or let me reach in his wallet and pull out whatever I want to pull out. So no allowances. I am now going to have an allowance. I'm
That's
handing
good.
over control to my accounts to my guys.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have all my information on there. They will give me a certain amount of cash every week that I get to spend. If I find something that I really, really want, but it's more than what I have in my budget in my hand at the moment, then I have to go to them and talk to them about it first before they will release me any more money to get that thing that I might really, really want. And knowing Dustin, he'll make me think about it for 3 days first to decide if I really, 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 really want it, or it's just, it makes me feel good and that's why I want it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I'm proud of you. And
Yes.
there's a book I want to recommend to read. It might help you. Anybody who's going through any financial struggles, this is an amazing book.
hold on. I gotta get my notebook out. It was
It's
sitting right here. I just had to pull it out and open it to the right
that's
page.
awesome. It's by Dave Ramsey.
Oh,
D.A.
I've read that book.
Total Money Makeover. That is the best book. And I know a lot of people who are extremely, extremely wealthy who use the tools in that book. That is a great book. But it's I'm really proud of you for doing that. You're gonna learn to stand on your own 2 feet, and you're really gonna learn how to like manage your money and between instant gratification and savings and do I want it? Do I need it? It's a lot. I see we have a tiara.
We do,
Oh,
Franklin
thank you.
MC. 14 days clean from smoking pot.
Yay! That's awesome.
We
That's
celebrate
So
wonderful.
those
awesome.
milestones, being clean from an addictive behavior or clean
Mhm.
from an abusive situation. With my
Mhm.
mama's tiara. This was her tiara for her 95th
Yeah.
birthday, and it was her final
Yeah.
birthday. She had a great run, a great life, and so we celebrate these little wonderful things with her tiara.
Yay!
I'm
So
so,
I
I'm
think
so happy for you, Franklin.
Yes, that's
that's so awesome,
amazing.
Franklin. That is.
It's awesome.
So I find that spending money is an addiction.
Mm.
Mhm.
It
Yes,
is an addiction, especially if you have an
Mhm.
emotional connection to
yes,
the spending factor of money. It
yes.
is an addiction. I know you know, Carol. I know you know. You and I are right there together.
Yeah.
But it is an addiction. And if you can't face, it's just like any kind of addiction that you
Mhm.
have to come and face it and say, I have this addiction, I have this issue, I have this problem, whatever it is that you're going to be talking about. And so being able, even those who spend and spend to feel good or to make somebody else feel good or whatever, however they're related to that spending. Gambling is another form of spending. It's considered an addiction. So why can't just spending be considered an addiction? I think it is
It is
because
totally.
I have money.
I mean,
I
I
have
get
money in my
a
hand. Guess what?
dopamine.
I'm going to the store.
Yeah. When
Mhm.
I find when like that's why Temu was so dangerous for me. You talk about major dopamine hit. It was like the cocaine of shopping. Honestly.
Mine's Sheen. Mine is Sheen. I've done Timu too.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So it's dangerous because it's like, oh, it's like going
Mhm.
to the dollar store. Well, it's only, and before you know
Yeah.
it, the 5 things you came in to purchase have now grown to 25 things and
Hmm.
cost you 4 times the amount.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But you don't think of it that way when you have a shopping addiction.
Mhm.
No.
You don't think about the charge that you put on that credit card. You think, I'll take care of it later. And that is
Yeah.
where my bipolar comes in because that
Mm.
feeds into my mania of, and spending is the worst for me when my mania is out of control. It
Mm.
is. It really, truly is. So, you put an addiction on top of a disorder, and, you feel like you're fighting backwards, not forwards.
Mhm.
And so I have come to realize that I have to face this. I have to do what I have to do in order to be able, like you, Chris, like you told me, Christy, stand on my own 2 feet.
Mhm.
But it's
Mhm.
going to take time, and it's
Oh
going to take
yeah.
lots and lots of work. And I
Yeah,
know this, and
And
I'm prepared for it. And I think that's why I could face it this time.
right on.
and a lot of grace for yourself too. You know, it's I think that no, I'm not saying this is your situation. This is I think it's very easy for parents to want to help their kids out financially as much as they can. And I think that sometimes that enables that behavior of, well, if I get into a bind, I'm just going to call mom or dad and they'll sort it out. I will tell you what, in my family, you do not call me. I am the one that's like, no. or not always no, but I'm like, why? How did you get into this situation? Okay, how can you avoid this situation next time? You know, what did you do? Now, if it's my credit card got hacked or my bank account got hacked, that's a different story. But I will say this, I did very vehemently put my foot down with one of the kids, and it came down like Thor's hammer. and but you know, well, actually, no, it's been more than one of the kids. It was about 3 of the kids, and 2 of them came back and said that was the best thing that could ever happen. But it is difficult. It's really difficult, and especially when you grew up and you had that easy access, it's very easy to just, oh well, it's not that. And then I think sometimes you probably don't even consciously think about it because you've always kind of had that bailout, as it were. So yeah, if you ever get him to just call me, and I'll be like, no.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Actually, when I say my dad would open his wallet and let me take whatever I wanted,
Yeah, yeah,
first of all, this was when I was like under the age of like 10, between the ages of
yeah,
8 and 15.
yeah, yeah.
You know, so I didn't really get into trouble much at that age.
Right,
And
right.
my brother and I worked with our parents. They had a
Mm-hmm,
janitorial business, so we were helping them
mm-hmm.
clean offices,
Right,
cleaning
right, right.
the base store and everything like that. So
Mm-hmm,
instead of just giving us, say, a
mm-hmm,
paycheck or an
mm-hmm,
allowance, Dad would just open
mm-hmm.
his wallet.
Right. And
But my dad did have the ability to say, "Sorry, bank's closed."
right, right, right.
So
Well, and you know, it's a lot of times those habits develop early in life and they just kind of continue on, you know? I mean, I'll admit it, I was really spoiled and I'm still pretty spoiled. You know, so there are times where I look around and I'm like, wow, you're you're really spoiled. You should sit yourself down. And that's that's just because I don't know why, but you know, it happens. And then you kind of do, I mean, we all have those things, like whether it's we
yeah,
spend too much money or, you know, you're like me and you're a little spoiled, you know, I mean, it's, but, and for me, it's, I don't shop online because I actually like make myself physically get into the car and drive into town because I'm not close to town either way. I find that that helps me. And then when I have cash and I watch that cash leave, man, that's what gives me anxiety because that card, I can swipe that card all day. But as I am watching, as I am counting out the cash to pay you, and then I'm seeing it go, not that I have this much cash, but I'm seeing it go from here to here, like that, that's triggering for me. That causes me anxiety. And I'm like, okay, but one thing that I do too is I set an intention before I walk in a store. I set my intention. If there is nothing in here for me to buy, nothing for me to find, don't let me find it. And when I started doing that, then I would not find anything. And I'm like, okay, you know, and sometimes I would really kind of hunt around to be like, are you sure there's nothing hiding behind a corner somewhere? And then there would be nothing and I'd leave. So, you know, not that that helps with everybody, but we all have our things. I mean,
yeah,
we
we
really
do.
do, you know, and But and a lot of it does, and some of it starts early on and some of it develops later, and it doesn't make anybody an unhealthy person or that anybody did anything wrong. If we've all got issues. I mean, I got lots
Totally
of them.
all. Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
But no, it's kind of funny because like you said, I was spoiled. My dad didn't know how to say no to me. I mean, the worst thing my dad could ever do to me, forget spanking me, wouldn't do any good. But my dad would just look at me because my dad was my world. I was his his everything. Because he grew up in a family, 7 boys, no girls. I was his first child. I was very spoiled, but he didn't know how to say no.
Yeah.
But the worst thing he could ever do to me is if I did something that he didn't approve of, is he'd look at me and he goes, I am so disappointed in you.
See, my
That
dad
would hurt more than anything in the world.
My dad never said that because my dad never wanted to tell us kids he was disappointed in us. What he would say is, I wish you wouldn't have done that. Because my dad said and I asked him, before he passed as I got older, I'm like, why did you never say, because he did, he never said I'm disappointed in you. He never compared us. And he's like, he's like, I grew up with that and it was detrimental to me. But I know exactly what you mean, Tony, because my dad would just be like, wish you wouldn't have done that. And I never wanted to crawl in a hole so much in my life that I was like, oh God, no.
Yes, that's it exactly. And it's not that he was really disappointed.
Right.
Because he was always proud in everything I did, unless I did something that I wasn't supposed to do. And then he'd be and it wasn't that he was disappointed in me, it was he was disappointed in my actions. He didn't like what I did. And he made sure to make sure that I understood that. But it was like, I am so, and if it's not followed by a positive word, but a word that kind of makes you go, worst thing he could ever do to me. Worst. I just I felt like I had failed in life.
Right.
But, Mr. Man has been a pain in my butt all day. He been crying. He been making noises when I'm on the phone.
Oh, no.
Really bad. But thank you all again for being here this weekend.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much your words meant to me. And Carol, I knew that you'd had the issue, but for you to come out and tell me that yourself in your own words, just okay, this has been an all weekend thing. My eyes hurt from all the crying I've been doing.
Right.
But it's just, you guys have been, I brag on you guys all the time. That's all I can say. I brag on you all the time.
Well, it's so nice to know you're not alone too, because when you're dealing with an addiction or a compulsive behavior, it can be embarrassing. It can be isolating, and and there's certain feelings around it. So to know that you aren't alone is a really good thing, and to hear people's stories and how they managed it and overcame it and what they put into place. I mean, maybe some of it works for you, maybe some of it doesn't, but there's still hope out there. There's still, you're not alone.
No.
And I know that. And I know that also my coming on here and telling my story could be there for somebody else to use.
Yeah.
And I tell my children all the time, this is just a suggestion. You can keep it, you can run over it, you can throw it out the window, you can save it for later. I don't care. It's a suggestion. Do with it as you please. And that's what I look at my story as. My story is there for others to glean what they can from it. And use it in their lives however they feel fit.
Yeah.
Because by not sharing our stories, and this goes back to what you guys were talking about, different groups and stuff like that, and showing kindness. If we don't share our stories, if we don't put out there the hurt that we feel so that others can see our rawness, how can we expect them to show us theirs? How can we expect them to heal if we're not putting ourselves out there as an example, whether it's good or bad.
Right.
You know, and that's what I love about this group too, is because we can come together like this, share our stories, share our pain, share our joys, share our happiness. You know, I mean, woohoo, 2 more weeks till the kids move out. They got their apartment
There you go.
at the Links, which also has a golf course. The apartment they got looks out over at the golf course on the first floor, which is what they needed.
Nice.
They got pretty much everything they wanted. But here's the best part. I got to go shopping without shopping
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't my money I was spending.
Right. Right.
That's the best part. The kids got a washer, they got a dresser, they got like tons of pots and pans and stuff that they
Mm-hmm.
need for the house. Then, and that was at a yard sale just down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to an estate sale.
Mm-hmm.
They got a queen size sleep number bed, frame, headboard, and all. They got a 4-piece living room set, microfiber, the love seat, and the 2 ends of the sofa, both recline. A big extra fluffy soft chair with an ottoman. They got an IKEA style desk. Some would call it an artsy craftsy, some would call it a gaming, but basically you can have 2 people sit at either end,
Mm-hmm.
and there's still plenty of room in the center, and then there's a drawer thing that's there as well. A office chair, a no, I can't remember the name of it again, but it has the base, and then on top goes, you can use a not a mixer, a blender, a juicer, or a food processor that goes on top of it.
Oh, wow.
They got that set up, which the price they got it for, $110, it's worth a lot more than that. The
Nice.
sleep number bed, $350. The 4-piece living room set, $450. By the time it was all said and done, and the kids' house is pretty much taken care of now, except for a dryer. So we have to look for a dryer. They had to rent a storage unit for 1 month because there's no room to keep it here at our house
Right.
because of all the stuff they got.
Mm-hmm.
They spent less than $1,500, fully furnished their place. The sleep number bed, if it was just a base model, which I don't think it is,
Mm-hmm.
alone, just the mattress and the box spring are like $1,300. It's like another $750 just for the frame that it sits on,
Mm-hmm.
if they were to go to a store and buy it.
Wow.
The living room set, because a base model that does not recline is over $1,100.
We're all in the
Wow.
wrong business.
So
Yeah.
under $1,500, they have like taken care of their place and been able to save money in the process. And probably by the time you put the cost of what everything they bought together, they probably saved close to $5,000.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a
So
good
I was really,
savings.
yeah, and I was really happy for them. And it was kind of funny because they sit there and they'd like debate, okay, you know, do we really need this much? And then I'd say something like, well, what if you have company come over? They're like, oh yeah. Okay, well, we'll take the whole set. And I said, plus, look, here's the price of just this. Here's the price of all 4 pieces. Yeah, we'll just take the whole set. And it wasn't that I was trying to get them to buy it, as it was that I wanted them to see the value in what was being offered to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I also kept asking them, are you sure you got the money for this? You're sure you got the money?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I can't do
Very
for myself,
cool.
I can do for everybody else.
Well, I'm glad that they were able to get their house furnished. That's awesome.
Yeah, we were too, you know. And they're the first 2 to move out. Now we're waiting
Yeah.
for the other 3.
There you go.
Of course, part of that 3 is little, so he has to either go with mommy or daddy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's all good. Things are getting better, especially now that I faced my little crisis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like I said, Miss Susie Sunshine is back.
Yay.
You like
Good.
my name tag there, Ben?
Yeah. What is it? I can't even see what yours says.
Miss Susie Sunshine.
Oh, okay. I can't see comments or anything. Everything's like, I need a new phone. I've limped it along as much as I can. I think
You
it's on
too.
its last dying leg.
You too.
Yeah.
Mine's about to blow up in my hand if I don't get it
Oh,
replaced.
yeah.
So that's the only reason mine's getting replaced, is because it keeps
Right.
overheating, and it has been throughout all of the spring and summer. So
Mm,
Dustin's like, nah, we're not gonna play this game no more.
right. Right.
So
Well, so I just save up for what I want.
Right on.
Figure it that way.
Right on. My dad did
And
that. Used to be able to do that. That's how
mhm.
he bought every
Well,
car to his last one.
yeah, I mean, and it's not as, for me, it's not as anxiety ridden. If I've been putting back for it, or I know this is something I need, um, like it's not coming out of the weekly bills or the weekly money. So I'm not going to be, do I buy groceries or do I buy the cell phone? Like, I just put aside for it. And then when it comes time to need it, I've got it. And then I don't have the anxiety because I know I can still pay that bill, buy the groceries. It's something set aside, because you're always going to need a new phone or tires or something like that. So I always try to save that way. One thing I did one time was every time that because I love to go get coffee, so I got an espresso machine. I started making my own espressos. And what I did was every time that I made one, I just paid myself like $5, $10, whatever I would have spent to go get it. I paid myself. Y'all, tell you what, I made some money.
You know,
But it's,
one summer I did that with cigarettes.
huh?
I would put in the bank the amount that I would have bought a pack for,
Yes.
and I did it by the vending machine price back in the day when you could buy it.
Right. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And within like a few months, I had enough money to go to Austin, Texas for vacation,
Mm-hmm.
spend on
Mm-hmm.
everything that I wanted to see, everything that I saw that I
Yes.
wanted, I was able to get, everything that I wanted to do, I was able to do, just on the
Right.
price of cigarettes, saving back the price of cigarettes.
Yes. And I love doing that. I tell you what, I love to save because I like to see that amount go up and up and up and up and up. And then it gets to a certain point, and then I'm like, I don't want to spend it because we have been, we have lived in a tent. We have eaten once a day or not eaten at all for a couple of days. We've shared the Taco Bell $5 cravings box because that's all we could do. So, but I almost get like a dopamine hit off of saving, because then I get to see it grow. I mean, it does because, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm $10 away from having $50 or $100 or whatever it is, and I do the budget and I'm like, okay, if I save this much every week, then how much will I have at the end of the month? And after 3 months, how much will I have? And then you see that amount of money and then you're like, I want that. And so that's where I get my dopamine hits from
Nice.
is saving that. Now, usually something happens and I'm like, oh, well, it's a good thing we had some savings, but so, maybe try that. If there's spenders out there, maybe just like, what you would have spent, maybe save it. I don't know that it works the same, but for me, I definitely get a dopamine hit off of like, I put that money in the bank and then I look at my phone app and I'm like, it's still there. I'm such a dork.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, because really, honestly, we could look at it like, instead of going out and spending our money right now on something, we're actually buying ourselves something later on down the road. It's
Mhm.
just that mindset that we put
Mhm.
ourselves in, going from that negative, like Stacia says, to the
Mhm.
positive, and putting ourselves in
Mhm.
that mindset. My mother-in-law, what was it? Oh goodness, it must have been almost 20 years ago. Went through the whole course,
Mhm.
the of the book,
Dave Ramsey.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you, Dave Ramsey.
Mhm.
She went
Mhm.
through the whole Dave Ramsey thing
Mhm.
for however long it went for. Do you
Mhm.
know she is one of the best budgeters you will ever meet in your entire life? That woman can write
Oh,
you a budget like
yeah.
nobody's business. Plus,
Wow.
just recently, she came to us and told us that she has more money than she thought she had
Mhm.
because
I'm
she
telling you.
saves.
Yep. That book is no joke. I mean, I'm serious. If you struggle with money, get that book. Now, I think he gets a little churchy in it, a little bit here and there. Just let yourself get past that, okay? Because the fundamentals of what he says is really good. And it seems a little extreme at first, but I tell you, once you start doing it, it becomes second nature. And then,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes the dopamine hit instead of spending becomes the savings. And I think a lot of it too is just we're such a society of instant gratification. I think it takes a lot to kind of have that delayed gratification of I want to save for this. But what I did when I first started doing it was I would get a separate I would get a separate checkbook register. Those are really hard to get nowadays, by the way. You have to like go to an actual bank and ask for them and have an account there. It is unreal. But I would write how much I wanted to have in my savings, and I would set that as my goal, and that's what I was working toward. And that is what made. Now, again, everybody has different things, but you know, um, it's saving to me is I mean, but again, there's other things that I'm like, oh nope. So and it's just reframing how you see it into a
Yeah,
positive for yourself,
yeah,
which takes a lot of
exactly.
practice.
It does.
It really
It
does.
does.
It really does. And
Mm,
these are very real addictive behaviors too,
Yeah.
compulsive addictive behaviors, and they're not anything to be made light of.
No.
So please don't think I'm making light of anything because I'm not.
It can get
No.
destructive really fast.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you can destroy your
Yeah.
whole family. I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
times my relationship with money has
Mhm.
sunk me and my husband so
Mhm.
bad, so many
Mhm.
times
Mhm.
that basically I look at this as my last chance. Either make
Mhm.
it work or I'm done. And I'm
Mhm.
not saying that in a negative way. I'm just
Right.
realizing that if I want my relationships to continue working, I have to put my part of work into it as well. Now, do
Yes,
I
you
do
do.
all the other stuff? Yes, I do. Do I
Mhm.
do the financial stuff very well? No, I do not. I am
Mhm.
terrible with it. I will tell you. Yet I can tell people how to save the money, what to do with their money,
Mhm.
the best ways to build credit or destroy credit and all this other stuff. I can tell you all day long. But
Mhm.
to put it in practice myself, no.
Mhm.
I have a hard
Yeah.
time doing that. So now I have to learn to do that. And I'm willing to do that. Mom, with the envelope system, she actually
Mhm.
broke her checkbook down into
Mhm.
sections like, okay, so this is my budget for food. This is my budget for
Mhm.
gas. This is my budget for whatever, whatever, whatever. And
Mhm.
each month, even though everything was in one bank account, each
Mhm.
bank account had multiple
Mhm.
pages. But that's
Yeah.
what worked for her. And
Yeah.
that is how she ended up getting to the point where she doesn't know where half her money came from now. Because she thought she
Well.
had a certain amount and she turns around and she's got a different amount. And she's going, and she's very particular. She's very
Mhm.
precise when it comes to her bookkeeping. I mean,
Mhm.
I've seen her carry it to the bowling alley and sit down and work on her books
Mhm. Mhm.
because
Mhm.
she needed to get them done. That's how dedicated this woman is.
Mhm.
Love her. I love my mother in law. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. She has her faults. I have my faults. There's times she and I just stay away from each other because we know it's a
Right.
better idea to just stay away from each other. But for the most part, we love each other.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
she couldn't have been, I couldn't have asked for, and part of the reason I have to like her is because she does live next door. And she does rescue my chickens sometimes. So, I kind of have to like her. Kidding. I really do love her. I love Ruby so much. I couldn't have asked for a better mother-in-law. But again, thank you guys. Now I'm going to shut up.
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot.
You're fine.
You're good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel good.
For sharing.
I feel better.
Good.
Yeah. Good. Good.
I was actually excited to come on. Actually, the reason I was late coming on today was because I was in the middle of a phone call with the dude from the credit, whatever.
Okay.
And I was finishing up my paperwork with him. And that's why I didn't make it on time.
No worries.
So, but I was hoping I'd make it on time so I could tell you what I just did today. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a big step. You should be very proud of yourself. I'm very proud of you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to do it by myself is even
Yeah.
bigger step because that meant
Yeah.
I was able to deal with it, even though I had tears a couple times. I'm not gonna lie, I had tears a couple
Mhm.
times.
Yeah.
But I made it all the way through that whole thing by myself
Mhm.
with no other help, no support,
Mhm.
nothing. I
Mhm.
think what helped though is I had notes of like what all
Mhm.
my credit cards were, what their amounts were, and all this other stuff. So I could
Mhm.
verify
Mhm.
that the information he was pulling was the information I had.
Mhm.
But besides that, I mean, I'm very proud of myself. I'm very proud
Yeah.
that I was able to accomplish this on my own because there's a lot of times when I go into an emotional situation, I have a really hard time dealing with it.
Mhm.
I really do. My anxiety will kick up, I'll have a pseudo seizure. Now later
Mhm.
on today, I'm not saying I won't go to bed and have a little bit of the shakes a little bit because of all the dopamine just coming down, going,
Right.
okay, now we got you on that
Right.
high. Now it's time to come down, you know.
Right.
And it was a dopamine hit. You're right.
Mhm.
It was. It
Mhm.
really was. And one of the things he said is that I need to also put $25 a month back for savings. He goes, you need to save. And the
Mhm.
fact that he said that, I was just like, you know what, you're right. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm
Mhm.
working a little bit by
Right.
little bit. But I'm also the kind that, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I jump into the pool, whether it's cold, hot, or otherwise.
Right. Well, and you might find that, you get the dopamine hit from savings and you can see it grow and then you're kind of, it'll be, instead of being upside down, you'll be above board, you'll be above water and
Yeah.
it might help you,
Well, I've always
and
liked saving money. It's just that
yeah.
I like spending more.
Right. Well, and it's being disciplined is hard. We're not natural, Ben. We're not naturally disciplined creatures. I don't think. I think we really have to learn how to get there in different things, and
That's true. Yeah, you're probably
so
right.
well, and some things it's just easier to be disciplined in. Like it's everybody's got those things that it's like, oh, that comes really easy. But I think there's definitely tiara moments and really proud moments when you do hit that discipline, when you find that you are starting to correct that behavior, starting to reframe how you see it. But it's not easy because, again, going back to the unraveling who you are and what you believe, with money, you have to unravel your beliefs around money. You have to you got to untangle all of that, instead of telling yourself, I'm not good at this, hey, I'm really great at saving. I save money now. And eventually you'll get there. It's just because, again, when you tell yourself, I'm not good at this, you're reinforcing that unhealthy behavior, right? And that's what's going out. And you're letting yourself down. But when you're like, you know what? I can save $5 a week or whatever it is, $25 a paycheck or whatever. I mean, whatever goal you set for yourself. But then you do get a reward, and it's like it's a bigger reward. But then you also start training yourself to see that differently too. You
Yeah.
know, and that's with anything, you know, I believe.
Oh, I agree, 100%. I mean, I stop and I think sometimes, and I realize people that think they have it easy in life aren't really taking a good look at their life, because life is not easy. There are so many ups and downs to it. There are so many hairpin curves, you know, you name it, they're there. We have to deal with them. But I think the people that don't deal with them are the ones that live that fairy tale life, I guess you would say.
I think that you can get to points where life is definitely easier and more abundant. I do think everybody has had those moments where it's been really, really difficult. And I think when you get to that point where you're really abundant, I think the difficulty changes.
Yeah.
I know the difficulty from that Michael and I had when we were, for example, staying in a tent versus the difficulty that we have now. In some ways, the difficulty that we had staying in a tent was easier to manage and navigate than the difficulty that we have now. So I think that, you know, I think you can, I don't want to say cruise through life, because I don't think anybody cruises through life, but I think you can learn to manage what you have in a way that is productive.
Yeah.
You know, for sure.
Oh, I agree.
Now, it
But
doesn't
it's
mean
being
that I
able
want
to
to go.
notice those.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean I want to go back to staying in a tent. I do not want to do that. Never, ever, ever again. But you know, yeah. I mean, there are some things that, you know, I think it kind of looks different. I think you get to different points in your life. I think you have seasons. You know, everybody has a season, and you know, I think when you're in an abundant season, if you can manage that well, then you'll carry that abundance with you over to the next season, because it's a lesson that you've learned. So it's something that you're going to be able to do. And that can be just having a good attitude, reframing how you see things, being positive, saying, I can do these things.
Yeah.
That's why
You know,
Mississippi Sunshine's back.
yeah. I mean, but again, doesn't everybody has difficulties? It just
Oh,
looks a lot.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, what do you guys think? Have we had a meeting?
I think, Ben, were you going to say something? You looked very serious there.
This perfume is supposed to smell like books in a library. It smells like boiled cabbage
Oh gosh.
and something else. I can't quite place it, but when I figure it out, I'll let you know. But it does not
What
smell
is
like
it?
books in a library. That's for sure.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Well,
Does it smell like stinky feet?
What's that?
Stinky feet?
Stinky
No,
feet.
that's it's not terrible. Well,
Uh,
if you don't mind the smell of boiled cabbage, I suppose.
that's interesting. Well, you guys, I have definitely had a meeting. It is over 100 degrees here today. There is a heat advisory. Shitty Kitty has let herself out the back doggy door, and you know, she is smart enough to come inside. However, I have not seen her, so I am going to go walk around and see if I can find Shitty Kitty. She's probably in the shade somewhere or under the porch, but I need to make sure that, you know, nothing traumatic happened. So I would be very sad, you know. Mikey and Sweetie are great. They have figured out that the house has air conditioning, and they like that. So they are each on their own respective recliner, enjoying the cool. So I'm going to go find my cat. See where she's at. I don't know. Oh, God bless it. She's a sight. But you guys have a wonderful day. It was good to see all of you. And
You
I
too.
will talk to you guys again soon.
Hey, good to see
Later.
you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm gonna hop off here. I think somebody needs a diaper. And I don't
Ah,
think you guys want to be sitting there when I change his diaper.
probably not.
So
That's probably
I
best.
will see probably. So I will see you all tomorrow. And again, all of you, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Ben, Miss Susie Sunshine missed you Friday.
I yeah. You have a great week. Great
You
day.
too. Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you, Tony. Thank you.
Yeah. Whispers in the library. Yeah, I'm thinking not so much. More like it's in the field or something. And I shouldn't. The problem I had with it is I actually touched my nose when I was trying to. So now it, yeah,
Oh.
now it's stuck to me. It's probably one of those odors that you can't wear off. You can't wash off. You have to wear it off. But yes. So I hope you have a great day. I enjoyed your rooster. I enjoyed your rooster chiming in.
See, I don't even notice him. It's fun. Isn't that funny?
He had a lot to say, and apparently, you just don't care for the most part. But I do hope you have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Ben. Oh, you guys. Yay, this is a nice. I mean, you wouldn't think it would be a nice, fun, light topic, but it was. And I think that's pretty cool, actually. Um, anyway, thank you guys so much for being here and being part of the Needing a Meeting. And I love each and every one of you and what you bring to the community. And I hope to see you again next meeting, which will be 3:40, same place, same time, 3:40 Central Time. And until then, peace, y'all.